I want to just call your attention to something about the fog of war. So, I found out about this book a while back because I heard an interview with somebody who had been close with Hitler. She was one of the Mitford sisters, and there were these fascists in England, and the man said to him, "Well, didn't you think like what they were doing was horrible?" And she said, "Well, everybody had read the Ponsonby report, so we just figured it was." So that got me interested in what the Ponsonby report was. So I got it. So I'm going to read from you. This was done by a member of Parliament in 1921, I think, after World War I. And he did it, and he explains why, but I just want to read what he said. Falsehood is recognized as an extremely useful weapon in warfare, and every country uses it quite deliberately to deceive its own people, to attract neutrals, and to mislead the enemy. The ignorant and innocent masses in each country are unaware at the time that they are being misled, and when it's all over, only here and there are falsehoods discovered and exposed. As it is all past history and the desired effect has been produced by the stories and statements, no one troubles to investigate the facts and establish the truth. Lying, as we all know, does not take place only in wartime. Man, it has been said, is not a veridical animal, in other words, a truth-telling animal. But his habit of lying is not nearly so extraordinary as his amazing readiness to believe. It is indeed because of human credulity that lies flourish. But in wartime, the authoritative organization of lying is not sufficiently recognized. The deception of whole peoples is not a matter which can be lightly regarded. A useful purpose can therefore be served in the interval of so-called peace by a warning which people can examine with dispassionate calm that the authorities in each country do and indeed must resort to this practice in order first to justify themselves by depicting the enemy as an undiluted criminal, and secondly, to inflame popular passion sufficiently to secure recruits for the continuance of the struggle. They cannot afford to tell the truth. In some cases, it must be admitted that at the moment, they don't even know what the truth is. The psychological factor in war is just as important as the military factor. The morale of civilians as well as of soldiers must be kept up to the mark. The war offices, admiralties, and air ministries look after the military side. Departments have to be created to see the psychological side. People must never be allowed to become despondent. So victories must be exaggerated, and defeats, if not concealed, at any rate minimized. And the stimulus of indignation, horror, and hatred must be assiduously and continuously pumped in to the public mind by means of propaganda. As Bonar Law said in an interview to the United Press of America, referring to patriotism, it is well to have it properly stirred by German frightfulness. This was in World War I. Scare them about the Germans. The Huns are coming. The use of the weapon of falsehood is more necessary in a country where military conscription is not the law. The public can be worked up emotionally by sham ideals. A sort of collective hysteria spreads and rises until finally it gets the better of sober people and reliable newspapers everywhere. So even the newspapers start generating falsehoods. With a warning before them, the common people may be more on their guard when the war cloud next appears on the horizon and less disposed to accept as truth the rumors, explanations, and pronouncements issued for their consumption. They should realize that a government which has decided on embarking on the hazardous and terrible enterprise of war must at the outset present a one-sided case in justification of its actions and cannot afford to admit in any particular whatever the smallest degree of right or reason on the part of the people it has made up its mind to fight. Facts must be distorted, relevant circumstances concealed, and a picture presented by which its crude coloring will persuade the ignorant people that their government is blameless, their cause is righteous, and that the indisputable wickedness of the enemy has been proved beyond question. A moment's reflection would tell any reasonable person that such obvious bias cannot possibly represent the truth. But the moment's reflection is not allowed. Lies are circulated with great rapidity. The unthinking mass accept them, and by their excitement sway the rest. The amount of rubbish and humbug that pass under the name of patriotism in wartime in all countries is sufficient to make decent people blush when they are subsequently disillusioned. Do you remember the Kuwaiti ambassador's daughter, Naila? Some of you probably aren't even old enough to remember that, but I remember it. The evil Iraqis went in and ripped babies from the incubators. And it turned out she was living in Washington, D.C. She'd been coached by a PR team to relay that lie. But the lie had already been done. The Iraqis had already been demonized. So 40 babies got their heads cut off, even though the IDF said we can't confirm that. But it went all over.